Good day everyone and welcome to our English class. Today, we will be discussing a very interesting topic. But before that, allow me to ask you this question. Alright, so who's your favorite superhero and why? Most of the time, we see someone as our hero, or more likely, we tend to compare them to a fictional hero that we may see in a series or TV show. Evidently, it shows us that we know how to compare someone to someone or something to someone and the likes. If you can do those things, apparently, you know how to utilize different forms of language. And so today, we are going to use phrases and words that is way beyond their literal meaning. Today, we are going to talk about figurative language. Figurative language is when you use a word or phrase that does not have its normal everyday literal meaning. Writers can use figurative language to make their work more interesting or more evocative than literal language, which simply states facts. And talking about figurative language, apparently we are going to mention this, the figures of speech. And I know that you are already familiar when we talk about this concept. Figures of speech is a word or phrase that possesses a separate meaning from its literal definition. It can be just like a metaphor or simile that is designed to make comparison, and it could be repetition of alliteration or exaggeration of hyperbole to provide a dramatic effect. Well, in truth, there are a wealth of these literary tools in English language, but let's start out by exploring some of the most common figure of speech examples. I hope that you are, excited to learn new things and to learn more about figures of speech. First, let us talk about simile. Simile makes a comparison between two unrelated things. However, instead of stating that one thing is another thing, just like in metaphor, a simile states that one thing is like another thing. So basically, simile uses cues or words such as like, us, and such as enable for us to have comparison of two things. For example, they thought like cats and dogs, or could be as slippery as an eel, or might be as blind as a bat. It could be it's like a pig, or it could be as wise as an owl. So in with those sentences or with those phrases, we are having two unlike objects being compared or being connected with the use of the terms like us and such as. After simile, we are also having this one, metaphor. Metaphor is a statement that compares two things that are not alike. But unlike similes, metaphors do not use the words like or us or such as. Such statements only make sense. Please remember this one. Such statements only make sense when the reader understands the connection between the two things being compared. Just like time is money, or it could be the world is a stage. Might be he's an ogre, or it could be she's a night owl. Okay, so we have those two unlike objects that they are being compared because they are having or they might have a connection. That's why they are being compared. But just unlike the simile, we did not use the cues as, like, and such as. Next one would be personification. Personification is a type of figurative language that gives human characteristics to non-living objects. Using personification affects the way readers imagine things, and it sparks an interest in the subject. Well, to sum it up, personification gives human qualities to non-living things or ideas. For example, the sun greeted me when I woke up in the morning. Or it could be the thunder crumbled, or might be the snowflakes danced, or the fog crept in, or it could be the flowers nodded. Okay, so those are example of personification. After this, we have the hyperbole. Hyperbole is an intentional exaggeration of the truth used to emphasize the importance of something or to create a comic effect. Okay, so example would be my backpack weighs tons. So this one exhibits exaggeration because yeah, apparently I haven't seen a bag that weighs tons. Maybe that person who mentioned this one has a very heavy backpack, right? Or could be I've told you to stop 1,000 times, but just like what our mothers keep on mentioning that, like I've been calling you 1,000 times, and yet you are not listening. I might be, I could do this forever. Well, in reality, you cannot do things forever because time is limited, or our time is limited here on Earth, or everybody knows that. But just like that term, like, you know what? Everybody knows that you are that rich. Like, it is really impossible that everybody knows that information. Okay, but you just mean a lot of people know that thing, right? So, hyperbole, you are exaggerating things, and we are using hyperbole for emphasis rather, or effect. All right. Now, let us talk about onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a language that means something or an action by imitating the sound associated with it. So remember that onomatopoeia is one of our sound devices that we use in order for us to add some sort of reality in our writing. For example, the fireplace heater hissed and cracked. Or more likely, some of the animals are making their sounds, like the cat goes meow and the dog barks like arf arf, or the cow says moo, right? And also, people just like us are creating sounds, like if we have eaten enough, right? Like we burp, or if we are that happy, we laugh with ha ha ha, right? And also things are creating their own sounds as well. Like for the doorbell, it is ding dong, and for the clock, it's tick tock, right? So again, that is onomatopoeia or onomatopoeia. Next one would be synecdoche. Synecdoche, it is all about a part of something that is being used to refer to its whole. Example, he got new wheels, and wheels is part of a car. So when we say he got new wheels, apparently we are pertaining to the concept of that person having new car. Or it could be I am feeding 10 mouths. So I use the word mouths. Okay, and mouth is part of a body of an individual. Well, apparently I am just simply trying to say that I am feeding 10 people. So that is synecdoche. So we are using a part as a representation rather of a whole. Okay, so the next one is metonymy. Metonymy is a figure of speech in which an object or concept is referred to not by its own name, but instead by the name of something closely associated with it. So again, let's take note that in metonymy, okay, we are referring to a concept, okay, but we are not using its own name. Instead, we use something closely associated with it. Okay, for example, the pen is mightier than the sword. So this particular statement simply means writing is better than a war, or fighting using writing is quite better than fighting. So here we use the term pen as this one is closely associated, or it is better for us to use pen as an object that will represent writing. Okay, and then sword is a good concept or a good thing that we may use in order for us to represent fighting or represent war. So that is how metonymy works. Basically, we are using something that will represent a certain object. Another example will be this one. Be um, it could be during illness, fluids are often essential for recovery. So in this sentence, I use the term fluids. Okay, hold on. Okay, let me just write the term fluids here. Okay, so we use the term fluids in this sentence. So again, during illness, fluids are often essential for recovery. So we use fluids, okay, as this term will represent hydrating substances. Okay, so what just I simply mean during illness, we use hydrating substances often because that is essential for recovery. Okay, another term will be next week. My boyfriend and I are headed to the altar. So I use the term altar. Okay, and altar is a metonymy for getting married. So that is how metonymy works. Okay, again, it's just basically using a concept, or yeah, basically using a concept or a thing or something that will represent another object or another concept, right? Well, I guess you have already heard this famous title of a series or a movie, for example, Rags to Riches, which is an American television series. Okay, rags represent, or I mean, it could be closely associated with being poor, right? And then riches could be associated with the term being wealthy. So for creativity's sake, we use rags and riches. Also, the term the crown. Crown is an idea, okay, that could represent a kingdom or a king or a queen that rules a certain country. Again, that is metonymy. Well, metonymy is often confused with synecdoche. Okay, so these two literary devices are similar, but it can be differentiated. So inside synecdoche as a figure of speech, we used a part of a whole or a part of that whole to represent that whole thing or whole concept we are pertaining. While in metonymy, we are just simply using something or a concept that is closely related to whichever concept we are pertaining to. Okay, so again, that is metonymy. Okay, so let us continue. Now we have allusion. So when we say allusion, it is a brief and indirect reference to a person, place, thing or idea of historical, cultural, literary, or political significance rather. It does not describe in detail the person or thing to which it refers. So basically in allusion, are using we are using this historical, cultural, literary, or political significance or political icons in order for us to describe someone or something, okay, or a situation. It could be. So an allusion is a reference. Okay, take note. It is a reference, typically brief, to a person, place, thing, event, or other literary work with which the reader is presumably familiar. So in order for us to have a successful usage of allusion, we need to make it sure that our audience must be familiar to whosoever icons or whatever significant idea we are going to use in order for us to compare something or someone or a situation. So this will be a good example for that. Don't act like a Romeo in front of her. So we all know who is Romeo, right? And we know what are the characteristics. What are the characteristics Romeo has, right? He might be that very gentleman, a very loving man. So meaning to say, don't act too romantic in front of her. Okay. Another example will be, is there an Einstein in our physics class? We all know who Albert Einstein is, right? So Albert Einstein is one of those intelligent icons that we know. Okay, or it could be, I want to sound like Queen Bee, right? We know who Queen Bee is. It's Beyonce. So Beyonce is a good singer. So basically, when I say that term, I just simply mean that I want to be a good singer, just like Queen Bee. All right. Um, Also, allusion could be associated with some sort of classical mythology. Like, for example, looking like Venus. Ba? So it could be alluding to the goddess of beauty. Okay? Or it could be opening Pandora's box. It could be alluding to Pandora's myth of letting trouble into the world. So again, that is allusion. Okay, so allusion is a very effective literary device in all forms of literature. Writers can use allusions for character development by associating them with other well-known and familiar characters. So again, that is metonymy and allusion. Now let us talk about anaphora. Anaphora, in writing or speech, is the deliberate repetition of the first part of the sentence in order to achieve an artistic effect. Again, that is known as anaphora. Let me just repeat that this one is repetition of the first part of the sentence, okay, of the poem or of the prose or of the speech that you are about to deliver. So anaphora works as literary device to allow writers to convey, emphasize, and reinforce meaning. So this word repetition at the beginning of each phrases, okay, in a group of sentences or clauses is used in order for us to put a style, okay, on our technique, especially if we are delivering speeches, having lyrical poetries, or even a classical poetry, okay, or even a prose. For example, 5 years have passed, 5 summers with a length of 5 long winters, and again, I hear these waters. So here in this example, we repeat the word five, okay, as we want to give an emphasis on this poem or on this stanza. So again, that is anaphora. Now let us talk about alliteration. Alliteration is a stylistic device in which a number of words having the same first consonant sound occur close together in a series, just like with this example. Here, we have the sound of the consonant letter F, because that is the first sound in this series. So from fourth, the fatal loins of these two foes. So again, coming from the definition of alliteration, it is having the same first consonant sound that we might see in a series or in a sentence or in a statement or might be in a stanza. Best example as well of alliteration would be some of the tongue twisters. For example, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled pepper. A peck of pickled pepper, Peter Piper picked. So on that tongue twister, we repeat, okay, the sound of the consonant letter F. So alliteration is more likely being used, okay, in order for us to practice our enunciation of the words in a sentence, or I mean, and more important would be this one will help us to give more creativity in our poem, in our story, or in prose, or in each of those stanzas that we are writing in our poem, right? Because alliteration is giving us that sound, okay, and that sound would create rhythm. And upon having those, or upon having that, okay, your work would be quite more attractive and more appealing to the eyes of our readers. Now let us discuss apostrophe. A writer or speaker using apostrophe speaks directly to someone who is not present or is dead, or speaks to an inanimate object. Again, by the way, let us not be confused with the punctuation mark apostrophe, okay, that is being used in order for us to express possession and for some contractions of the words. Okay, let's deal with the apostrophe, wherein it is a rhetorical device or a device that writers, playwrights, or some of us are using in order for us to address someone or something, or address a concept or inanimate object that would not really give us a response, but still we keep on addressing them. So we are directly speaking to them. Someone who is not present, who is dead, and inanimate object. I am very confident that you have already used this figure of speech. I am confident as well that you might have posted this already on your social media account, Twitter, on your Facebook, and the likes. Okay, best example will be this. Dear Monday, please be good to me. We know for sure that Monday will not give us a response, but then again, we keep on addressing them, right? So that is the use of apostrophe rather, and we have a lot more example of it. Just like the famous song Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, right? Or Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, how I wonder what you are, right? Or to be another song which is the Oh Holy Night, right? So we are addressing them, though we know for a fact that they are not going to give response to us. So basically, apostrophe rather is being used, okay, in able for our writings to be more of artistic, okay, to give that sense of imagination. All right. So again, that is alliteration and apostrophe. Furthermore, the term figurative language refers to a whole host of different figures of speech. So, it's difficult to provide a single definitive answer to why writers use figurative language. That said, writers use figurative language for a wide variety of reasons. It might be about their interest in beauty, complexity, humor, and realism. In general, figurative language often makes writing feel at once more accessible and powerful, more colorful, surprising, and deep. That will be all. Thank you. That will be all for today, and thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have learned new concepts and acquired new skills that you may use in your daily lives. Always remember that there is fun in learning.